Hey guys, welcome back to another episode, How to Tree Climb Like Tarzan. Today we're going to be talking about how to use thin vertical trunks. So the way we look at trees, you can climb the trunk, and that can be a big, thick trunk that you climb like a rock, or it can be a thin trunk that you climb like a pole. Then you have the limbs that we can hang from and move around the bottoms of the limbs and the trunk together. And then you have the canopy where you're moving mostly just with limbs from limb to limb to limb. So that's kind of the main areas that we do. So we came all the way down to Seattle to check out these black locust trees. Black locust trees are a decent climbing tree. You have to worry about thorns with black locusts, and they can't have fragile branches. But for our purpose, they've got a really nice grippy bark, and we've got this beautiful grove of them that have perfect shape for the type of climbing that we're gonna do. So we're gonna show you guys how to get started with moving and seeing the types of options that a grove of vertical trees like this can offer you. Okay guys, so we're gonna be looking at how we can start moving using a surface like this. So we can go up it, we can go down it, we can use it to bridge to another object. But the first thing we have to do is just to be able to get our body comfortable being on this surface and not on the ground. So in order to do that, we gotta put our feet in the right place and get them in the right relationship to our hands. So unlike on a big tree trunk or a rock climbing wall, I can cling all the way behind this, and so I can create this kind of tension. This is pulling me in, and now I'm gonna use my leg to push, and that's gonna stabilize me. So I'm putting my foot on here, I'm gripping with my toes. You might not have the toe mobility to do that at first, but over time you're gonna develop it. And what I want is to be able to stabilize and sit like this comfortably. If my foot can't get high enough relative to my hip, as I pull in, it's gonna be a lot easier for my foot to slide. So I want to find that nice relationship between my foot and my hip that makes this push me right back and my foot stays super secure. From there, when I pull up, I don't wanna pull super high where I'm gonna start losing that tension. I wanna pull just high enough to replace my foot. So there's a few different strategies that I used here. First, if we look at the foot, depending on the surface, a lot of times my foot is gonna be pointed straight in, and here I can actually grab with my toes. Sometimes I'm gonna turn my foot out and press my foot in crosswise. This can be a useful position as well. It can be quite challenging with the external rotation of the hips. But over time, again, the more you practice, the more you're gonna get it. And then sometimes you're actually gonna use your feet to pinch the trunk. And this can be a really useful resting position. So now I can relax my arms and use my feet to support me. Again, this requires a lot of external rotation and will really light up your groin when you're first learning it, or in my case, if you haven't used this kind of skill in a while, you're gonna really feel it. But over time, again, your body will adapt to it. It's great mobility work, and it's gonna give you a really secure way of moving on the tree. So we got the camera guy here now, demoing for you. So he's getting his feet, getting the, there we go. Nice job, Jesper. So Jesper's doing a pretty good job here. Big thing he's struggling with is just wanting to use more of his bicep than he needs. Gotta relax, focus on keeping the feet high. When the feet are in a good position, you got good traction, you don't have to rely on your arms too much. Great job, Jess. Now go ahead and come back down the same way. Nice job. Boom. So right before you get to the bottom, I want you to try to slip your feet to the outside and go into that pinch position. Oh. There's the risk factor. Let's try that one more time. Okay, right as you finish, go ahead and try to find that rest position. So turn your feet out and then slide them around the corners. Try to drive your knees out so you create as much pinch as you can until you feel like you can stop completely. And ideally, take one arm off, rest it.
Oh!
There we go. How's that groin feel?
Great.
So one of the first things I want to emphasize is how valuable it is to focus on climbing low at first. Right? You can climb all the way up this tree, or you can go 5 feet up, 10 feet up, come right back down, and you're going to be conditioning and getting comfortable without risking a dangerous fall. The other thing that I'm going to look at is what kind of textures and slopes I'm working with. So this tree, if you look, has a really nice texture. It doesn't have any very little built up moss and lichen on it. And it really offers a lot of grip. So that's one reason why we travel long ways to do this. We have some groves of trees like this in Bellingham, but they're made up of alder trees that are covered in lichen that shears off when you put your feet on it. So they're really, really hard to climb. So this kind of thing is something that's useful to look for, is a tree that you can really get a grip on. And then the other thing is, if you'll notice, if you can come over here, I'm starting on the side of the tree with a positive slope, right? If I come over here to the other side of the tree, it's also possible, but I'm going to get a lot less out of my feet, and I'm going to be using my arms a lot more, which when we're working with relatively thick pole-like structures like this is a big problem. When we talk about hanging limbs and climbing up hanging limbs, that's going to be much more of an upper body thing. When we do this, it's challenging relatively to be on the negative side of the tree slope. So those are a couple things to keep in mind as you start exploring movement in this kind of environment. So one of the big things we're always worried about is traction when we are climbing. So having this layer of sand here is like lubricant for my foot. It's like ball bearings. So before I climb, I'm wiping my foot down, and this is maybe kind of gross for some people, but I'm gonna spit on my hand and rub my foot. As the saliva dries, it adds a little bit more tackiness to my foot, makes it easier for me to move. So I'll then put my foot on one heel here, try not to pick up too much sand.
Spit on that thing.
So one more way of locomoting here is to go to our position here and actually jump. So that kind of locomotion is often done with the feet actually bound together on coconut trees in tropical parts of the world. So it's an interesting form of locomotion. I haven't found it to be super useful, but it's something that we can practice and try. It gives us certain dyno potentials as we get into more complex tree climbing variants. So it's a nice thing to add to your tree climbing practice as you're developing your movement on these vertical trunks. Okay guys, so once we're up in the tree, of course, we gotta get down. Now, a lot of the ways we're gonna get down are gonna be the same ways we're gonna get up, just in reverse. But there are some options that work going down that are less effective going up. And the main one is using your traction, your sliding, your friction. So as I go down here, rather than push out and get into that same position, I'm just pinching with my thighs and lowering myself. So that's one way to come down. You can kind of try and pinch and pull yourself up. Some trees it works. It's a lot physically harder. So ultimately you're gonna do a lot better with your ascent, working on the techniques that we've already talked about. So the next thing we're gonna be looking at is how we can start interacting with multiple trunks. So going up and down a vertical trunk is fine. It's like a strength training exercise. But for me, this kind of movement really gets fun. This type of environment really gets fun when I start being able to link myself from tree to tree. So if I start here in this tree, I can get back to that fundamental position that I was showing you guys. And now I can reach with my foot and find the tree behind me and transfer from one tree to another. So that's a fundamental structure that I can use. I can also use two trunks to move instead of just the one trunk by using a stemming action. Now I can use this to transfer me over to here. Boom. Oh. Okay. Now I want to go over there. So I want to get in the right position on this tree so that as I transition around this side, I don't slip off, because the slopes get weird here. So right here, I've got a good foot position. Transition. Okay. Oh, looking great. Nice job.
Oh, that's my first tree transfer ever.
Nice job, Jess. There we go. Yeah. There we go. So the next thing we're going to be trying is a long traverse between trees, staying relatively low to the ground. So this is something that's very safe, but super technically challenging and physically challenging. I haven't done this in 6 years, and it's a lot of muscular effort. So hopefully I'm going to be able to complete it, show you guys what it looks like, and you guys can go find something like this in your own environment as a really great way to start climbing trees and challenging yourself and growing as a movement athlete in the trees in a very safe way. So I did have to put my shoes on. My feet are getting super fatigued from all this climbing, but we'll see if I can do it. All